Hi there folks, welcome back to my channel, and for this video, with it being October and Halloween season and everything being autumnal and kind of just getting to that kind of creepy time of the year, I thought I'd go through some books that I've read that I've really enjoyed, which would fit in with that Halloween autumnal creepy feel. And a lot of them are books that are classics everyone knows about. That everyone's probably going to be sitting going, yeah, we know, we've read those books, or I'm going to read those books. We know about them, but still, these are books that I will always say need to be read, need to be enjoyed, especially if you love gothic, creepy, classic kind of fiction. And yeah, so I'll get onto that in a second. If you are enjoying my channel, if you are enjoying my videos, if you click on that subscribe button, click on that notification bell, it's always really appreciated. It does help the channel to grow. So on to the main topic of this video. The first book that I'm going to be looking at is The Woman in Black. And I think this was published back in the 1980s. And there has been a stage play done, and the most recent film version was out in 2012 and had Daniel Radcliffe in it. So it's actually a really enjoyable movie. I remember sitting watching it with my best friend and just really enjoyed it. And the book I would definitely recommend. It has that very much a kind of Victorian Gothic horror feel about it, even though it was written and published in the 1980s. So the whole premise is that it centres around Arthur Kipps, who's a junior solicitor who is sent off to attend a funeral of a Mrs. Alice Droplow. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. And he has to go and get her affairs in order because she died alone. She had no heirs as far as MD knows, and essentially try to get everything sorted and in place so that her lawyers can deal with her estate. And there's a lot of kind of creepiness that happens, a lot of kind of things that take place that just it's one of those kind of, it's very atmospheric, very dark, and even though it is kind of quite a slim volume, it's kind of not that thick a book, but I do think it packs a hell of a lot in. And it's actually a book that I would say that is overdue rereads. I do need to sit down and give The Woman in Black by Susan Hill another read. And I probably will try and do a separate video on this book at some point, but definitely one that I would recommend. And another one that is a definite classic and has again been made into a movie is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. And again, everyone knows what the story is of this. That essentially the young girl kind of falls ill and there's no medical explanation, and it is essentially she's possessed and she needs exorcised. So again, classic of the horror genre, very suspenseful. I need to put my teeth in and actually learn to speak properly. But again, it's one of those good books that if you are into your horror, if you are into creepy, dark novels, definitely one to read. And yeah, a classic of Irish literature now is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So again, the titular character, Dorian Gray, he is constantly praised for being young, youthful, beautiful, quite a vain character, is obsessed with remaining youthful, remaining young, but kind of is very kind of self-centred, and essentially ends up the picture of the title is the thing that shows the effects of his evil, hedonistic, cruel ways. So definitely one that I would recommend anyone to read, especially if you love your classics. And again, it's another one that is overdue reread. There's like so many books on my shelves in my collection that I really need to sit down and read again because it's been a while and they're books that I just love. And again, another classic, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And I think most of these know the backstory of Frankenstein. That essentially she was over in Europe with friends, with her lover, and they essentially were trapped indoors during really severe rainstorms, and they all challenged themselves to write or kind of come up with scary stories, and this was Mary Shelley's offering. So very much a kind of a look at science gone wrong, at the effects of science when it's allowed to kind of go to very dark places, creation of life, and yeah, definitely kind of one that should be on anyone's shelf, should be in anyone's collection. And yeah, again, I think it's actually this book and the last two were actually all from the same publisher because it's all very similar covers. So it's Dracula by Bram Stoker, another Irish writer. And yeah, again, another book that needs no introduction. And I think as somebody has actually pointed out on another YouTube channel, the reason why a lot of movies about Dracula are based on this novel don't quite follow the actual setup of the book is just Dracula the novel is a very slow burn. It's written as newspaper articles, journal entries, and is all kind of being pieced together from different places, and it does give it a very atmospheric, slow burn feel. But it's still one of those books that it just builds up to a brilliant climax, and yeah, definitely kind of worth just kind of sitting down and having a good read of. And kind of one that's kind of maybe not as well known for being a novel, but everyone knows of because of the musical version, because of the stage version by a certain Andrew Lloyd Webber, and that is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. And again, this is one of my favourite novels, and it's been one of my favourite novels since I was about 15 years old. And again, is one of those kind of classic gothic novels that was kind of came out, I think it was in 1910 that Phantom of the Opera was first published. And the fact that it's actually set and based in a real location, which is the Opera Garnier in Paris, which I've been to. I actually went and visited the Opera House, and it's definitely worth it. And again, it's quite dark, a bit of a kind of slow burn as well. It just kind of builds and builds until the climax, but it's definitely kind of one of those books that's just worth a visit. And one of the things I could really like about this edition as well, it's got a lot of wee kind of like notes, and yeah, I think it's illustrated as well. It's got wee kind of illustrations kind of dotted throughout it. So again, Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux is definitely one that I'd recommend. And yeah, I haven't really read this in a long while, so it's definitely one that, as I was saying with The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, definitely one that I should really sit down and reread, because I actually have another version of it. That's the version I actually got when I was 15, so this is one that I've had for 20 years, and yeah, that's Michael Crawford on the front, so I will definitely have to sit down, reread, and possibly do a video for that myself. And the last book for this video, and this is a book that I read when I was at university, and I just kind of fell in love with this book, and I've actually ended up buying all of the English editions of, well, all of the English translations of this guy's books, because I just kind of love his style, and even though his stuff is not horror, it does very much have that kind of gothic, creepy vibe to it, for especially even though it is, what he tends to write is mystery. And the book I'm talking about is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and this is a book that I would always recommend. And I actually bought this for one of my friends as part of Yola Book Flood, and it's essentially, I've been trying to get her to sit and read it because it's just such a good book. So essentially the whole premise of this book, of The Shadow of the Wind, is that it centres around 10-year-old Daniel, who lives in Barcelona, and it's just his dad, who owns a bookshop, takes him to a place called the Cemetery of Forgotten Books, and he's allowed to take one book, and he picks up, so he takes his book, picks it up, and it is essentially a book called The Shadow of the Wind by Julian Carax, and it's the only book that Carax ever published. No one ever seems to know anything about him, but it kind of draws Daniel in, and it's this whole mystery of him trying to find out more about Carax, find out what happened to him, and it's the whole kind of drama and mystery, the darkness that kind of surrounds Carax and his novel. So I just kind of love the style of this, and it was one of those kind of books that just kind of drew me in and just kind of held on, and yeah, and I just kind of just love the kind of the gothic vibe that Zafón has in his books. And yeah, so one that, yeah, again, I think all these books are books I probably will have to sit and reread at some point and just enjoy again and savour. And yeah, so, oh sorry, I just dropped one of the books, I'll get that in a second. But yeah, definitely all these books I would recommend, just for the kind of creepy gothic vibe of all of them. And yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed that video. Hopefully you all now all want to go and read those books. And yeah, I want to go back and read all these books now. So I'm gonna sign off just now, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.